key matchups that you're going to look out for? Who do you think? I was thinking if Trent Williams does play him against Josh Allen, um, who's the guy that they just paid against Lenore?
What
Who's
do you
the
mean?
Jacksonville Jaguars? They overpaid him. Christian Kirk.
Oh, Kirk.
Christian Kirk against Lenore, I think will be interesting. Um, anyone against Isaiah Oliver is going to be scary. Any key matchups that you're excited for that you think maybe will be in the 49ers favor or in the Jaguars favor? What are you looking out for?
I like how you pointed out the defense because I think that this is going to be the most intriguing matchup of the year. Not year of the game. I think it's the Jaguars' offense versus this defense because the offense for the Jaguars is no slouch. I mean, you've got three solid receivers. You got Zay Jones, Calvin Ridley, and you also have Christian Kirk, like you mentioned, which means it's going to be a tough matchup if the 49ers continue to play man coverage like they are. Their offensive line ranks 12th, I believe, in the league in pass blocking statistics, like in blown block rate and things like that. So they've been able to maneuver well. They've also added Ezra Cleveland into the fold from the Minnesota Vikings. They bolstered their offensive line, so you're seeing improvement. So they also got a pretty darn good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, a solid running back in Travis Etienne. They have a good foundation, and so the 49ers, the issues that have precluded them the last few weeks, you're probably not going to be able to get away with it as many issues as they've had.
I was gonna say ETN is like a little. Maybe this is a bad like comparison. It might be like people comparing Brock Purdy to Joe Montana in the beginning, but he has a little Christian McCaffrey to him, right? Like he lines up as wide receiver a lot, and he's done really well in their passing game too. I feel like he's pretty shifty and fast. Um, he's not the biggest guy, but he can be hard to take down. I feel like he's been really impressive for them.
Yeah. I can see the way that they utilize him is a little versatile. So yeah, I can understand what you mean.
Do you think that this is side note ish because it won't affect the Jacksonville Jaguars game? But while we're talking, I mentioned Isaiah Oliver, do you think that they'll eventually activate Samuel Womack and try to get him in there for Oliver, or try to take Oliver off the field more?
Yeah, I think
I know
that
that they opened up his practice window earlier this week.
yeah. Here's kind of my take on it. It's a little bit of a bold take. I think if they were gonna do any moves, it would actually be with Samuel. Sorry, not Samuel Womack. It would be with Darrell Luter, their fifth round rookie, and that might be bold. The reason I just believe he's a better fit for the scheme. I think that they might like him a little more. He's got a good frame at 6'1". He's taller than Samuel Womack, and I think that allows you to fit well on the outside, allowing Diambro Lenore to move to the inside. And so I think that you've got certain options. I just don't know if they're going to have the comfortability to do so. I think that it's an option. And so that would be my bold take if it occurs. But the 49ers are midway through the season. They've stuck with Oliver. Clearly, the Amber Thomas project didn't work out. And I just don't know if they're going to implement one of those guys after so much time off, both in the offseason and now, given how young they are and how inexperienced they are compared to Oliver. And so that's kind of the reasoning why I'm cautious about it. But if a move were to happen, I would probably actually point to Darrell Luter.
I like that. I also had a lot of optimism for him when they drafted him coming into the year, but then just with him being out, I felt like maybe they'd be because Kyle Shanahan is already so hesitant with rookies. I'm like a fifth round rookie that didn't practice in preseason or didn't play in preseason and training camp. Um, I could just see, and so far up until the season, I could see him being like, "Oh, we're just redshirting him this year." Randy says Lenore is our best cornerback, and I don't know if I agree or disagree, but I'm interested. I've
Mm,
been disappointed with Travis Ward this year. I feel like he's regressed since last year. I think I don't know if it was with you that I mentioned people don't really talk about he was suffering with a heel injury throughout all of the offseason. So I'm sure that that might still be bothering him, but it is kind of concerning. It feels like uh, if they're not playing 8 yards off of the receiver, Lenore or not Lenore, Ward is going to grab the receiver. Seems like he's getting a penalty every single game recently, and he's when he's not getting a penalty, he's getting mossed. He's getting run right by. So What's going on with that? Has he always kind of been like that? And maybe because of the pass rush not getting home, that's getting exposed a little bit more, or do you think maybe he is dealing with some sort of injury or scheme difference with Wilkes? Because I didn't feel like he was this inefficient last year.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned if I'm being honest with Trevor Ward's play. I think there have been a few inconsistencies recently for sure, and so I think that you can definitely create an argument based on that. Um, but overall, I mean, if you look at his coverage, I would probably like it's been fine. I think the beginning of the year was probably a little bit stronger because he's given up, I believe it's 11 total catches in the last 3 weeks, and he's given some of those. I believe it's 2 touchdowns. He's had a lot of penalties this year. I think it's 8 total penalties, and so if you look at the numbers, I think the penalties are the main issue. But if his cover in his coverage statistics, I think he's still pretty good. I mean, he's only allowing 59% of the passes to be completed. I mean, he allows a passer rating of 77.6, which is still above average. So I think some of the numbers are misleading around Trevor Ward. I do believe he can turn it around, but I think he's been a little grabby, and that's definitely an issue. I wonder. I don't think there's been too much in terms of the scheme difference with the cornerbacks, but I do wonder if he's still adjusting to something like that as well. So I think Ward, there's certainly things
He
that
was a man corner in Kansas
yeah,
City,
yeah, he
right?
was a man corner there too.
Yeah.
But they sometimes they play, it's been a lot of man press, and that was Ward's bread and butter. And so you do wonder why there's been a bit of a fluctuation primarily in the last 2 weeks. The Minnesota game was really where he got beat. Obviously with the touchdown give up to Addison where he had a near interception. And so I think that there have been a few inconsistencies recently, but I'm still fairly confident in him. I think he's a pretty darn good corner, and I think that his body of work overall this season, in comparison to the last 2 weeks, has been pretty strong to where you can give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. I agree with that. And then really quick, I wanted to go. I didn't see these two comments when we were talking about Steve Wilkes, but um, Purdy is not him. Hashtag fire Steve Wilkes. All right. Well, maybe we see where he might be. This comment here might be a little bit biased, but he said Wilkes is going to give or is going to get live feedback when he's on the sideline. Now the thing is, they were wearing they when you're in the booth, you do have headsets and you are getting live feedback. Now, what Wilkes said, which was kind of interesting. I don't know if this is like a pride thing or maybe just the way they worded it was a little bit differently. When Kyle Shanahan talked about the change moving Wilkes from the booth, he kind of talked about it like one, Wilkes prefers the booth. Two, Kyle Shanahan made it seem like he was kind of making him try this out. He did say it was only going to be for a week just to test how it went. But it seemed when you listen to Kyle Shanahan, like this was not an option. This wasn't something Steve Wilkes came up with. But then when you watch Steve Wilkes' press conference, he kind of addressed it like, oh, I just thought, it could be nice to try something different. Like he kind of addressed it like if this was his idea, which I found kind of interesting. But I do think it probably the latter is probably more true because in that same press conference, Steve Wilkes was like, "Yeah, but I do really prefer the booth." Um, but when it comes to getting live feedback, they do have wear headsets, so he was able to get the live feedback. Now, the one thing that you're not able to get is maybe stuff that isn't auditory, like just more like you can see the look in the guy's eyes. Okay, my guys look tired, they look defeated, they look really riled up and determined right now. Okay, we can go for it. We can be a little bit more aggressive because they look like they're ready to kill, or hey, they look like they're a little bit slow, and not in the way like a bird's eye view like they're running slow, but like you can see their eyes more. And then Kyle Shanahan himself, even though on the intercoms they're able to communicate, there's only such a short amount of time. So maybe just them being right next to each other, hopefully that'll clear up some communication issues if there were some. I think that that's why they're trying it out. I think it's less because his presence on the sideline. I'll pull up my dad's comment. I don't think this is why. My dad said, to me it doesn't matter where he is. We need a coach like the last couple head coaches or the last couple coaches who go crazy for big big plays on the sideline. So my dad is more talking about D'Amico and Salah's like energy and enthusiasm they had. I don't think that Steve Wilks is going to be like that on the sideline. That's just a personality thing, and that's not going to change whether he's on the sideline or in the booth. But I do think that the reason that they're trying it out is maybe just if Kyle Shanahan wants to be able to interfere or interject, or I know he was giving the plays to the linebacking coach. Maybe he'll want to communicate directly with Fred Warner. If they're seeing something, maybe I know Rich Madrid on Twitter said it's kind of laughable to think that they make in-game adjustments like that. And I they probably don't make like grand in-game adjustments, but I feel like Travis Kelce, didn't he talk about like in the game, sometimes he'll like find an open spot and he'll kind of go to the sideline and tell Patrick Mahomes like, hey, like for the next couple plays, like I'm going to be exploiting this area because I've noticed a weakness. So the players do, I feel like, make little adjustments. I'm not saying they're like changing their whole entire scheme on the sideline, but I think you do make small adjustments, and maybe having Steve Wilks there just for the eye contact and to be able to make those immediate calls will hopefully help, because we want the 49ers to be able to turn it around.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.